Eric Lee, welcome to Listening with Leaders. You are the co-founder and CEO of KarmaCheck, found at karmacheck.com, and you were also one of the original people involved in the startup now known as LinkedIn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Doug. It's great to be here.
So let's start off with a little background. What's your backstory? I know you came out of engineering, but let's just hear how things
Yeah,
developed.
I grew up as a kid in Silicon Valley, and as many people know by now, Silicon Valley is steeped in technology. You breathe it, and entrepreneurship was really part of that as well. And so I continued on and went to college at Stanford and MIT, and so I definitely do have that kind of computer science technical background. And from a young age, I actually had entrepreneurial ambitions as well. And so, in a way, from a very early age, my interests, were identified and, have come together.
And when did you get started in Silicon Valley?
Well, that should date me if I actually answer that question,
Because
but
I'm going to date myself. That's why I'm curious.
I grew up there. So,
Okay.
probably from the age of, 10. So it's been multiple decades until, very recently.
Interesting. Well, you'll be interested in knowing that I learned beginner all-purpose symbolic instruction code from John Kemeny at Dartmouth College in 1969. And I learned how
Fascinating. I thought I knew everything about tech going all the way back, but these are some things that I don't know about.
to we use punch cards and Hollow Earth cards and punch tape to that had to then be fed into the machine to be optically scanned and compiled. So you learned to code parsimoniously.
Well, I started in the era of floppy disks.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there was a phase there, of course.
I thought that was a big deal. I mean, I remember, just to go back on memory lane, I remember back in 1971, there was a conference at Dartmouth, and all of these people had these boxes. And I went looking around, what are these things? And this guy said, well, this is a mini computer. And in 10 years, everybody's going to have one in their home. And I'm working at the Kiewit Computer Center with a gigantic building with a mainframe. I said, get out of here. And
Well,
then
I've had my time in time sharing terminals and
there you
you know
go. There,
some tapes as well. I remember those in the early days of my
exactly.
teenage years.
So you've had a whole bunch of different experiences. How many startups have you been associated with?
Probably around four, and as I became a professional, I did have an entrepreneurial itch, and so pretty soon after working for some of the larger companies like Sun and IBM, I would wanted to get into a startup situation, and eventually decided to start companies of my own as co-founders, and so. Um, there's definitely been several, some more successful than others.
That's the way it is, isn't it?
That is a way. It's better to be lucky than to really know all that you're doing sometimes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about KarmaCheck. This is your current project.
It is. KarmaCheck is a really special company for us. We are in the background check space, and we're trying to help make background checks, which all companies essentially run on candidates to try to make them faster and more efficient and more automated. There are a lot of manual processes behind the scenes to get those things done, and they really create these friction points for people to get to jobs and opportunities. And so we're trying to make that faster and help make the world move faster and democratize opportunity for people more. So
Mhm.
we're doing.
Excellent. And I take it that in your role as CEO, obviously you're running the company and guiding it along as it begins to grow and take off. Um, what what is it that gets you really excited in the morning to get you out of bed and to the office or to the computer or to the
Yeah,
screen
or maybe the emails and
or to
text
make an
messages.
email, right?
Yeah. Um, well, I think one of the really, great gifts of being a founder entrepreneur is the fact that you have the opportunity to set the agenda for your day. your destiny is mainly determined by you and what you want to do, each and every given day. Whereas if maybe you're an employee, you're getting direction from your manager, your supervisor, and things are more well defined, shall we say. And so, every morning when I wake up, I think about, what's the best way that I can apply, the hours during the day to furthering the business, and the possibilities, for our customers. And that changes, and it's a creative process to figure out the possibilities, and so I'm motivated every day to get up and start going to the computer and usually writing messages, yeah, but also thoughts, and figuring out what I should be planning for that day.
Is KarmaCheck remote or hybrid?
We are fully distributed, and we started that way about 4 years ago. But we've gotten to the point now where the company is growing so much. I feel, some people feel like they miss that face-to-face interaction sometimes. I do too. It can only take you so far, and so hopefully, as we have pockets of people in various parts of the country, we can start to maybe have, small offices where people can go in and do some work together, and at least do some talking together and some brainstorming, hopefully.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that before, but if you have clusters, you can really have like a cluster office where people can come and meet and talk and work together.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people, work really well independently. They kind of have their own track. I'm probably one of those people who,
Mhm.
if you left me alone, I'd still be working. But
Right.
there are other types of people who, they really want to have that social interaction to, get them moving. And so I think, being able to spend time with other workers would be really valuable.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. The best thing that happened to me was the pandemic in terms of getting people online. And I do a lot of different things. I'm an arbitrator and a mediator and a peacemaker. And before people really got used to being online, I was sort of geographically limited to mostly California and maybe Arizona and Western United States. But today, my business is all over the world. Really, really interesting consequence of forcing people online, which is pretty cool for me. I really enjoy that a lot. So, what is it you you you've been involved in some pretty big projects. What is it that's unique about you think that you've brought to the table that has allowed you to have the success that you've had?
Well, I've always been kind of a, multidisciplinary kind of guy. I do have a training in technology. As a kid, I, played with computers, and so I've known technology for the longest time, down to the guts of the technology, assembly language,
Uh,
type stuff.
mhm.
You probably know that too, Doug. But I really am interested in, you know, problems that people have, and applying, my tool set, which often is technology, to helping to solve their problems. And then I think the third part that I think is pretty unique about me is that I am interested in business and all the kind of dynamics around that, and go to market, market sizing, and understanding pain points, and kind of bringing those two aspects of technology and problems and pain points in the market together. And so hopefully in the mix of all that, there's some kind of productive results, shall we say, that can be done.
You have the ability because of your technological background to recognize there are technological solutions that are possible, and then you look into the market and you say, here are problems that need to be solved, and
That's right.
here's how we can use technology to solve them.
That's right. And I believe that often understanding what is not possible is also just as important. What technology cannot do.
Right.
There are tons of problems out in the world that actually cannot be solved in a kind of enterprise, even for-profit setting.
Yeah. Look at what
It's
I
important to
do.
understand that too, right?
Right.
Um,
I mean, I help people deal with conflict, and I teach people how to de-escalate conflict. I think we're a long ways away from having technology take over people like me.
Or even AI, for
Or
that
even
matter.
AI. Yeah, I've been following the development of AI, and what I don't see in any of the journalism is the fact that what separates us from all other species is that we're emotional beings. Humans have emotions. No other species have emotions other than humans, and emotions are embedded as a decision-making framework in us, and because of our biological nature. And I don't think AI is ever going to be able to replicate human emotion, because emotions are so deeply embedded in the living organism called a human being. I don't think it'll ever get AI to that point. So it's really interesting to watch people think about that. So as a guy who's done a bunch of startups and now you're working on KarmaCheck, what are the kind of challenges that you see on a day-to-day basis that you have to deal with? The buck stops with you.
Well, what I would say to that is that maybe one of the things that people don't often realize is that the technology is actually the simplest part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real challenge in terms of understanding what your customer needs, what the market is looking for, and how to bring a product to market. Figuring that out in any given scenario is really a trick, and it takes whether it's a founder or a team
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of time to figure that out. There's a lot of experimentation to that as well, and so that is definitely something that one has to do continuously. And then I think the other thing is that in my experience as an entrepreneur and just as a kind of company owner, you realize that people are your most important assets, but they're also people are also often present challenges of themselves, right? Getting a group to work well together, handling conflict, disagreements,
Mm-hmm.
uh, even motivating a team and inspiring them, and continuing to inspire them because the journey is often long. There's some real challenges and things that you have to do along the way to keep everybody going, especially during the thin times.
Oh yeah. Well, this show is called Listening with Leaders for a reason, because I teach listening skills, deep listening skills, and I'm always interested in other people's perspectives on listening. Tell me about listening in your career, how important it is.
Well, I value it so much. I think listening is one of those fundamental skills as a leader, which hopefully the best leaders, I would say, listen more than they speak. There's so much information coming at you that you want to process most of that and then kind of react to it in the best way and then act. And so listening even when either people or markets are telling you something very softly, those are often really important things that you ought to pay attention to. And so like you said, Doug, I think cultivating a talent or skill around how to pick up on those sometimes very weak signals and interpreting them,
That's right.
I think that that really helps as a business leader.
I tell leaders that I coach, pay attention to your introverts. You can kind of ignore your extroverts to a certain degree, because they're going to make their presence known no matter what.
The introverts have a high signal to noise ratio, right?
That's
When they
right.
say something, it's usually
Pretty
pretty
profound.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. So pay attention to your introverts. And when I'm coaching people on how to run meetings, I say, before you make a decision, go around the room and get everybody's opinion. Don't let anybody not talk.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
you'll be amazed at what you get, and listen to what they're saying, because you'll be amazed that you've gone for hours and hours or days and days talking about this decision, and now you're coming up and you're about to make a decision, and there are 5 people in the room that haven't said a word, and you get them to start talking, and all of a sudden you realize, whoa, we almost missed the boat here.
Right, and often they have perspectives, that the extroverts, haven't said.
That's right.
You do want to get that 360
That's
view.
so I'm sure you've encountered people who don't listen very well. What kinds of things do you observe around those kinds of people?
Well, honestly, first of all, we try not to have them on the team
That's good.
to prevent problems from
That's a good thing.
happening. But I think there's I think a matter of coaching and giving them hopefully feedback that they ought to be, great listeners, as well.
Mhm.
And uh, I do come back to this idea that to listen more often than speaking is actually a valuable trait. And there's also a culture of that you can, encourage, right? So that everyone sort of has the expectation that that's what they should be doing, in any given team.
I think part of it too is controlling your ego as the leader, where you don't need to have to be the guy in front. You don't have to be the one talking and all the bright ideas. I mean, in chatting with you, you strike me as being a very thoughtful, quiet, um, non-egoistic leader, and that's why you're probably so successful. Uh, there are plenty of other people out there who are out in front and brash, and we don't need to name names, but we know who they are.
I don't know who you're talking about, Doug.
I know.
But
I don't think they're so. I don't think they're very effective. What's been your experience?
well, I have a personality that I do. It's probably, built into a large extent. So I kind of fall into a certain, kind of personality. Um, but I believe that's right. I mean, I think there are kind of numerous studies along the way that, say that the most successful leaders, tend to be the ones that are, not the ones that have, big egos. And they really do try to, listen, which is something that we talked about. And so I think those are, really things that are very important. And so when we look for employees, we look for, people who can perceive, what others are doing and kind of encourage that culture, where we're really trying to understand each other and letting the best ideas, float to the top, and execute on those ideas and really encourage a marketplace of ideas inside the company.
Yeah, I think a long time ago, I read a study that correlated serotonin levels with stock price, share price, and there was a correlation between CEOs that had high levels of serotonin, which makes them affiliative and outgoing and calm, and as opposed to low levels of serotonin, which lead to aggressive behavior. And it was just very interesting that there was some support for the idea that if you're calm and reach out to build relationships, that it's that your company is going to do better than if you're kind of that Wall Street maverick out there trying to tell everybody how cool and good you are. Really interesting stuff.
I agree. I agree.
So where does KarmaCheck go from here? You've been, what, it's been out for 4 years now?
Yeah, we're 4 years old now. KarmaCheck, looks like a background check company today, but we really started the company, with this idea that we wanted to be a digital identity platform
Hmm.
that could really create greater trust online. And we believe it's a very timely, challenge on the internet these days with, so much of the misinformation that is out there and makes it so easy to meet people, but you don't know if you can really trust them. And
Right.
so what we're trying to do is to kind of build this trust layer that makes it possible to interact with, a lot of people in this sort of so-called global village, but have that level of trust that makes interactions more meaningful, whether it's transactions or, getting a job or opening up a bank account. And so there's a lot of things that rely on trust, and we believe that if we can be this trust layer, we're going to help expand opportunities online.
Is KarmaCheck going to go in the direction where some yo-yo like me can go on and say, I want to do business with X person and I can do a quick check?
That would be great. Yeah, we'd love for you to be able to, verify someone's qualifications and credentials, maybe look at their blue check mark, if they have one, and gain some degree of trust that hey, this is a trustworthy person on the other side. It's almost like eBay, let's say, expanded plus plus, going
Right.
beyond just a marketplace.
Right. So, because when I looked at the platform, now it looks like it's primarily directed towards employers more than anybody else.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the main use case today around background checks. And so, so many businesses use background checks to help with this, but that's certainly not where we want to finish up. We have some secret plans to go beyond those, but it's a great place to start, and lots of opportunities even there.
So how is artificial intelligence going to affect the business?
Well, artificial intelligence is one of these things that I'm really excited about. Um, I think a lot of people talk about you know, artificial, general intelligence,
Mhm.
AI that mimics what a human can do. But I tend to think about AI in terms of so many different areas where you can apply the technology to make things more efficient, smarter, certainly, but in all different diverse ways of application. And so I feel like AI is going to permeate the technology landscape and therefore what we do as a society, everywhere. And in our own business, there are um, processes that can really benefit from, AI. They could be done, faster and more efficiently. And we even see numerous places where AI we could apply in our own domain specific way to make things go better. So I'm really excited over the next couple of years to really explore that. I hope we'll kind of be this hybrid AI, technology, base in our product, and we'll be able to, really create some, great features and functionality for our customers out there.
AI just reminds me how fast change occurs. I teach a graduate class in decision making under stress and conflict at the Strauss Institute of Dispute Resolution at Pepperdine University, and I teach a winter intensive. And this year, for the very first time in 20 years, in my syllabus, I had to put in a statement about AI usage, whether or not you use ChatGPT, for example. And I decided, hey, use it. Just recognize its limitations, because the students, when they're writing papers, they're going to use it whether I say they can or not, right? Might as well just give them permission. But I wouldn't have even conceived of that a year ago. And here we are today in a completely different world. It's mind-boggling. It's exciting, as you say, it's exciting to sit out there and watch this technology develop. And there are people have a lot of fears, which are probably legitimate. But still, it's remarkable to see how it is going to change our society in so many ways.
5 years from now, I think the tools, the technology that we have is going to look is so much unlike what we have today,
Right.
and it's going to be mind blowing. We
Absolutely.
won't even be able to imagine it.
I
And
know.
so the exciting part of it.
Crazy. Well, I got one last question for you, and then I'll let you go. Eric, what's one thing about you that we wouldn't know unless you revealed it to us?
Oh, um, I at the end of the day, one of the things that I do to calm myself down, so I can get some good rest for the next day is I watch Korean dramas. And so
Really?
yeah, yeah. So you would, think that those are just in the providence of teenagers, but no, it's great. It's great. It's very soothing and relaxing and gets my mind off work. So there you go.
And
That's surprising, right?
that's interesting. And obviously you speak and you're fluent in Korean,
No, no, I don't speak Korean at all, but maybe I can pick up a word here or there by watching the dramas.
but you're getting it.
I just watch the subtitles off
Oh,
Netflix mostly.
Really interesting. Huh? I've never heard anything like that before.
You
Well,
asked for it, Doug.
absolutely. Well, I'll reveal. I pick up. I play jazz violin. So every evening, 5 o'clock, computer goes off, violin gets picked up, and an hour of jazz. We
Very
get
soothing, I'm sure.
absolutely. Well, Eric, it's been a great pleasure having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Doug.